What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
And I'm Miguel.
And our 79th episode this morning. Lot to talk about on the docket. Our main topic of the morning is going to be Jurassic World Dominion. We saw Jurassic World Dominion on Wednesday. I know we're a little late to the party, but that's okay. This is going to be our spoiler review. I put non-spoiler there. We might kind of give our non-spoiler thoughts real quickly, but mainly this will be our spoiler review because, again, you know how we roll here. If you're new with us, we like to take deep dives into stuff, so it's kind of hard to not talk spoilers about some of these things. But we're also going to dive into some movie news too. There's been some stuff going on with Warner Brothers that is just a complete and utter disaster. Miguel and I were just kind of chatting about that before we went live. Tom Hanks had a rough moment, not a rough moment, a very justified moment with some paparazzi last night. And Venom 3 may be Tom Hardy's final Marvel film.
Really?
So lots to talk about. Kind of a lot of movie news that has broken this morning. So Miguel, before we hop into anything, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing good right now, man. I'm slowly reversing or changing my fucking mic, so I apologize for
that.
Yeah, so I do apologize for all of that, my guys.
It's all good. I just want to point out, I actually almost said that Tom Hardy will be Venom's last movie. So that definitely almost came out of my mouth just now. But
it's one and the same.
So be it. So let's kick this thing off, Miguel. What have you been watching lately? Because we haven't talked about that in a long time, and I've watched a couple of interesting things over the last week or so. We've gone so long, but COVID has finally made it into my house. So Julia was positive. I don't know that I'm positive, but I probably am. So,
but he's treating it the way he should.
I know. I'm treating it like I am. So be it. But what you been watching?
Pretty much me and my girlfriend Sierra just been checking out that new television show, or not too new, but like a fairly recent series called The Chosen, which is just about the life of Jesus. And that's just been an interesting show. And what else have I been watching?
I've heard it's really good. I still haven't checked it out yet.
It's decent. It's pretty good. Yeah, I would say it's pretty good. I obviously don't particularly know the story all that well, so yeah. Boo to me, but so it'd be exciting to keep.
What?
Actually, I don't really know the story.
Isn't it a crowdfunded thing?
It is a crowdfunding thing, which is cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like you know how like the It's Me Billy thing, where you kind of like donate like some money to like I guess some type of GoFundMe thing. It's pretty much the same premise. You every single episode is literally.
You do it through Indiegogo. That's the crowdfunding. But I mean, and they don't just do movies; they do quite a few different projects that people, you can put money forward to fund a project, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and even though like despite the fact that it is like a Christian movie, and let me say it is a Christian like TV series, I think that like the premise behind it is like really interesting to me because not just the show and it's not just like the story of Jesus itself, but like the story of the show in and of itself, because it is 100% crowdfunded, audience funded. And they literally don't make an episode until they have enough money to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's literally based on, they have 2 seasons now, which has like 8 episodes each. So about 16 episodes have been literally crowdfunded by the general audience. And I am sure you guys know, like these TV shows, they're very expensive. So people are throwing money at it. So I think it's interesting to look at these TV shows that are being crowdfunded, especially this one in particular, because of how like well directed or well made it is in regards to it, because you know how some crowdfunded movies use like some like fan made or like I guess movie that doesn't have like a high budget production can get a little like tacky and stuff. No, this is pretty spot on. It's pretty good quality movie, good settings, good everything. Yeah. So I think this can go back in our conversation in regards to the fact that with It's Me Billy and all the Halloween and Jason fan-made films.
Never Hike Alone.
Yeah, we may be entering like a new frontier pretty soon. And funny how funny to mention that The Chosen is probably gonna be one that's gonna make it like more and more mainstream. Because obviously we do have horror fan films, and that's been going on for a while now. But it's starting to like the quality of those have risen in the coming years. And now with The Chosen coming out, I mean, who knows? Maybe a production studio may be like, hey, you guys want us to make this movie? Go ahead and donate. That way we can.
Well, here's the thing, though, and it's kind of funny that we're talking about this because I had seen, I've seen about this in the past, but I really took a deep dive to try to figure out like who the guy was, and I would love to have him on the show. His name is Gavin Knop, I think that's how you say his name. Looks like a pretty young dude, probably no older than us, but he is doing a fan film called Spider-Man Lotus. And with my background and with my, I'm a horror guy. We've typically what we see a lot is horror fan films. It's Me, Billy, Never Hike Alone, Dylan's New Nightmare, like all of these fan films that are crowdfunding, that are essentially professional level production. I mean, they are professional productions. They are. And kind of seeing all of these things, I think it's interesting that we bring this up because, looking at, I really want to have Gavin on because if you've seen the trailer, or if you've seen any of the stills or the teaser trailer or anything for Spider-Man Lotus, I mean, it's going to be a feature length, I believe between an hour and a half and an hour and 40 minutes, a feature length film. And it looks real. The swinging and the CGI that they're doing with this fan film is, I mean, it looks like Disney's doing it. It looks amazing. It looks like it's going to be a really cool
Lotus?
Spider-Man Lotus. It looks amazing. It's definitely something that I kind of want to keep my eye on for the future and maybe get this guy on the show. But, I think it's cool that we're in an age where people, I mean, I've done it. If I just put out my, the tour of this room, which if you kind of see the background changing a little bit, not necessarily on the walls, but I have boxes behind me. We're getting ready to move in a couple of weeks. So that's why my background is going to change. But it's just interesting. Like, I mean, I've done it I contributed to Never Hike in the Snow, to It's Me, Billy. I didn't know about Spider-Man Lotus until a couple weeks ago. And I would have liked to, contribute to that as well. But it's cool, this new era we're in where, and it's not to knock anybody who goes out in their backyard with a DSLR, even if it's a DSLR or an iPhone or something, or a camcorder, and films their fan film. I mean, that's cool. I mean, if you're having fun, then that's all that matters. But it's kind of amazing that people are making professional level films because they have the budget to do it. And make no mistake, these are professional films. Spider-Man Lotus, Never Hike in the Snow, The Chosen, Dylan's, all of these things are professionally made films because they have the budget to do it. And if you'll notice, even if you look at some of these crowdfund campaigns, a lot of them say, the more money we get, the more you're gonna see, the more we're gonna be able to do, the more money you're willing to give us. So I think that's kind of cool too, just to I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's neat to see these people doing this, and to see fan films kind of taking the next step up in the industry. So it's really cool to see.
I would agree with this. I would agree with everything you just said right there, because honestly, like I said, and I think one of our episodes with regards to crowdfunded movies, like this is gonna be like the new thing. It's gonna be like the new hot thing. Like if you guys want a movie made, you might as well just catch a director that'd be willing to do it and then crowdfund them, just to make it. And logistically, I have no idea how that would work financially. But I think that in the coming like next decade or so, I would say fan films will definitely become something that a lot of us would want to watch. Not just like, oh, hey, check out my fan film. No, it's like gonna be like, oh, have you checked out this fan film? Like it's coming up. Like we may see fan films like in the Academy or something like that pretty soon. Like who knows?
That wouldn't surprise me. I think the thing with studios though, like you were mentioning, if a studio would be like, oh, crowdfund it and go get it made. part of the issue is that I think a lot of studios, like I've heard stories right before Blumhouse was getting ready to launch this Halloween trilogy. There were people making Halloween fan films that were shot down. I think studios are Friday the 13th and what Vincent DeSanti has done with Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow and now Never Hike Alone 2. Part of the reason that has been so successful is because Friday the 13th has been in limbo. Dave McRae is playing Freddy Krueger in Dylan's New Nightmare, which is directed by Cecil Laird. But, again, the reason they're getting away with that, Freddy is kind of in limbo. I'd be curious to see if we did get to interview Gavin, who is doing Spider-Man Lotus, to see kind of Disney and Sony's take on that, because I think doing fan films, from what I understand from the interviews I've seen from the people who have done these types of fan films, these crowd-funded professional productions, I think you kind of have to be very careful on how you navigate it, because you don't want to step on the toes of studios too much, because it's still not your character. I mean, it still has to be a not for profit film. I mean, there's no profit to be made off of this. It is solely the money you get, the money you are putting into the movie, and that's it. There's no profit. You don't make any money off of it. Essentially, all you get, and Dave McRae and Bruce Dale have even mentioned this, all you get from this is to say, hey, look at this piece I've done. Studio, hey, hire me. Look what I can do. If you give me the money, look what I can do. It's a portfolio piece.
It's like a stepping stone, pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean, they're amazing, and I'm super excited to see Spider-Man Lotus. Definitely need to check out The Chosen. That I've heard a lot of good things about it. So
yeah, it's surprisingly done really well, and all the shit's done in Texas. So like, props.
All my ex is living to. Moving on. So I finally got caught up. I watched Jackass Forever and Jackass 4.5 the other night. Never seen so many penises in about 3 hours of my life. But hey.
Look at the switch. We were talking about Jesus of Nazareth, and now we're talking about dicks.
I know. Yep. Not safe for work. But this show's not safe for work. Let's be real. But it was funny, man. Some of the stuff that they did the very first bit in Jackass 4.5. A lot of them pulled their pants down and they bent over like a sidewalk or something, and they took funnels, and Wee Man has got his own hot sauce. It's like Mexican sweet heat or something like that, and they gave each other hot sauce enemas. they funneled hot sauce into each other's buttholes
on a sidewalk, though. Jesus fuck, dude.
Yeah. It was pretty good. I don't know.
It's a whole lot of dicks and like fucking weird people. I gotta say, personally, for me, I haven't watched through. I have never watched through a Jackass movie. I just go on YouTube and I want to watch it. Nah, I think I'm good, dog.
It's fun, dude. I used to love Jackass when I was like middle high school. I used to love it.
I used to watch the pranks all the time. Yeah, I used to like watching the pranks, but when it comes to all of that stuff, when you talk about like shoving something in something else, it's like I kind of rather not.
Well, even Wild Boys and Viva La Bam and all that's like all of the Jackass spin-off shows that were on MTV. I used to watch them too. I mean, it's just fun. It's stupid fun. You know what I mean?
It's just the asshole pranks that I actually prefer to watch, honestly. And like that, like Jackass Forever and like all of them like spawned this entire fucking different category of prank videos. Kind of like what's it called? It's like with Ashton Kutcher. It's like, is it called Pranked?
Punked.
You know what I'm talking about? Punked.
Yeah, but Punked is part of that generation though. Punked was
it was like
around when Jackass was like late 90s, early 2000s. That was Punked was around.
Yeah, so like that, those television shows, Punked and then Jackass, before like I guess it became a movie. Those are like the foundation of like what we see today, and like, you know, on Facebook or fucking YouTube, where people are just like making jokes. I saw one of some guy, he was acting like a blind dude, and he was just eating his ice cream, looking at someone, and the guy like fucking didn't know he was blind because he didn't have his walking cane. So the guy got insulted and pushed him, and old boy literally popped out and went and pulled out his fucking walking stick, and this guy felt so guilty and just went up and hugged him. I know 100% that man was not blind. He was just playing a prank. And albeit, is that ethical? Is there an ethical dilemma right there? Is that morally wrong to act as a blind dude for the sake of like fucking with that guy? I don't know.
Well,
Was it funny as fuck though? It definitely was.
it's funny, but it amazes me. Like, I mean, they're not old, but they're older. I mean, they're looking gray. They're probably in their 40s and 50s now. The majority of them.
Johnny Knoxville has gray hair, dude.
He does. He. I saw there was a meme. It was like, man, Jamie Lee Curtis has aged so well, and it's all Johnny Knoxville. But they like some of the bits they did in some of the injuries. I was like, man, this like it. I'll have to go back and watch. They're all on Netflix. I'll have to go back and watch some of them because I'm like, was it really? Were they just younger? And you don't fully get the extent of some of the injuries, or like,
Did you ever
is it just that they're older? Like Preston.
Did you ever watch like Johnny Knoxville explain like almost every single injury he
Yeah.
sustained in his movie
Yeah.
career? Like I'm talking like almost swallowing his tongue, breaking his dick, literally eye socket coming out, head gashes, broken bones. Almost every single part of his body is pretty much broken. Because I mean, after your penis breaks, I mean, what else is there left to break? I don't know.
Had Chris Pontius, Steve-O, Wee Man, and it might have been Aaron McGeehee standing on this like it was like this two-story platform thing, like a construction platform with all the bars, and they had like a sock tied around their big old schlong, and they had like a string tied around.
So they're well endowed,
and it was attached to a brick. And they were like, two of you, the string is long enough to reach the ground, and the other one it's not. So they all dropped it, and of course, two people, the brick hit the ground, the string was long enough, and two of them, the string wasn't long enough. So even like Preston Lacey, like they did this thing.
Like you mean like how like you tie like a shoelace, like a floss around your like loose teeth and you slam the door thing?
Yes.
Oh, that's so fucked.
But
dude.
Two of the strings were long enough that it fully like went down to the ground. But then two of them weren't long enough, so it yanked him about a foot long. But they dressed up Preston, one of the new guys, and Wee Man up against, or like they dressed him up like elephants, and they had Johnny and whoever else with this huge gun that shot out freaking, it was huge size like rubber balls, and they hit Preston in the stomach so hard he had a black spot that was like that on his stomach. And then at the end of the movie, they had this this tennis chick. They were all dressed up as clowns, and I think she said when she hits a tennis ball, she can hit it like 104 miles an hour or something like that. She's like the fastest tennis server on the planet, and they told her to aim for his stomach right there, and she hit that black bruise right dead ass in the middle of it. And Preston had a bruise. It took up like this whole big portion on his stomach. It looked awful, man. But I don't know. Some of the injuries they give themselves are just it's mind-boggling. The Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. What's going on, Frank and Darren? How you guys doing? Hey. My mom's in the chat. She says Johnny's 50. Oh, that's how old they are. Johnny is 51. Steve-O is 48. Wee Man is 49. So yeah, they're in their 50s now, most of them, or gaining on.
Yeah, decently in their 50s.
Like it's not like they can just get away with concussions and ripping their balls off.
God.
And, I mean,
I thought you meant I just checked out the video from Jackass 4.5. Oh my God, they just painted their bodies like gray. And if you see this gun that they have, this thing,
like long. It took
it's
like
a
8
musket
people to hold it
cannon. Like 3 people need to carry this bitch. Oh my God. Talk about
Knoxville's like fire in the hole.
Yeah, Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, it was awesome. I'm tempted to not tell you about this next one. The other big thing we watched this week was that, have you seen about Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey? It's that documentary on Netflix about
Keep
the
Sweet?
FLDS. Yeah.
And Obey.
Mike from We Watched a Movie, I believe, was talking about this in an episode a couple weeks ago. It's a new documentary, which it's interesting because I had told you guys before, we had just watched Under the Banner of Heaven, which is about that was a drama series, which was a true story about the Lafferty brothers and the crimes they committed. But they were a part of the Mormon church, but then they became like fundamentalists and they were into polygamy and all this stuff. Well, if you think that, and you think like the Waco, Texas type thing, that's basically what happened. This guy Warren Jeffs became the leader of this FLDS, which is, I think, fundamentalist Latter-day Saints or something like that. But he became essentially the leader of this like pack of thousands of people on this compound. But there was underage marriage and polygamy, and it's a whole.
Look, man,
It's
Warren
a
Jeff
whole
does not
mess.
look like someone that I would want to follow. He
had
looks
these
like
people
someone
by
that
the
would do my
balls, man.
taxes for sure.
Well, he's in
But
prison now.
Jesus fucking Christ, man! Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I say I'm leery because the last documentary I turned you on to, you were in a bad mood for like 3 days. So, and it's a well-told documentary. It's just crazy. Like, it's so sad. It's good that, you know, he's in prison, I believe, for life now. But
what do you do? Did he commit murder?
Well, no, but they got him on because he was essentially what they call the prophet, and he's basically like right underneath of God, essentially. I guess it'd be like the Pope, like the only equivalent kind of thing would be the Pope. But they were out on this ranch in Utah, and he essentially was living this double life. They were giving him all his money. He was getting like 300 grand a week, and he was going out and buying hookers and taking he had, I think by the time he had wives in the double digits. I want to say he had like 40 something wives by the time they actually got him for life.
Golly,
but he was performing
right here.
He was performing underage marriages, and they were finding like 14 and 15-year-olds that were pregnant, and it was just it's a disgusting, awful situation. But it's a good documentary. It's interesting that we had just watched it, which that was that Andrew Garfield show I was telling you about, Under the Banner of Heaven.
That's what
that was
about?
Murder, though. Those two guys actually did murder someone, and an infant child. But these people, this was kind of about the legal battle between the state of Texas and the state of Utah, and kind of the way this whole legal thing because essentially the only reason they got him, and the only reason that they were able to figure out what was happening, was because there were people that escaped from it.
Whistleblowers.
That they just wanted out. They wanted out of this FLDS thing.
Yeah, I get that.
It's interesting. So watch with caution, though. If you don't want to get triggered, I would watch with caution, Miguel.
Well, nevertheless, you know, he can say whatever he wants about his religion and God, but he can't escape man's justice. So let it be true on that.
But of course, though, they were thinking like they thought that he was just being persecuted. You know what I mean? They didn't think he actually did anything wrong. They didn't think that, you know, I don't know. He was, because essentially,
well, that's what happens with these religious, quote unquote cults, I guess. Because I guess I don't know. I don't want to like label every single other outside religion as a cult, but like, you know, if you have a huge prophet or leader and they're like silenced or arrested, they automatically become a martyr. That's usually how it goes.
Well, and
if you're that fundamentalist or that like ingrained in that particular religion, so to speak.
Yeah. But I mean, even when he was arrested and he was in prison, because they got him the first time they got him, I think in the state of Texas, for 2 counts of accomplice to rape of a minor. But the last time they got him, they actually found all of his records at this place they called Zion in Texas, where he kind of went to run, but he built this whole temple, and he built it really reminded me of the whole Waco, Texas day. What was his name? Something Koresh. Was it David Koresh?
I got no clue. David Koresh.
Something like that. Yeah. But it reminded me of that, but it didn't go down the same way. This was This was definitely more of a legal battle thing between just like, because the problem you run into is a lot of them didn't believe that they were committing a crime. They felt that polygamy and marrying underage people was ordained by God and whatever.
Bro, I swear to
But
God, I'm seeing a picture of him, of like all of his fucking wives, and like in front of a picture of him. Bro, they look like a bunch of Peeps. Like the Peep candy thing. So fucking bad. Because they're all dressed in like different colors, like different light variants of colors.
It was a good documentary. I mean, it was definitely good. There's been a lot of really good, well-told documentaries and things that need to be said, but it's just like, man, you hate the stories that come out of those things just because it's so sad and it's such a mess because it's like, I don't know, you sympathize with the victims so much of stuff like that. Even the Our Father thing with what's his name that you despised.
Oh, that fuck Fort Chuck. Yeah.
Which, yeah, I have nothing good to say about him either. But so yeah, that's what we've watched this week. The Chosen, About Jesus, Jackass, Keep Sweet. Is a whole slew of weird things that we've watched this week. By the way, speaking of movie news, did you see about Tom Hanks last night? Listen, if you go back,
was it last night?
I believe it was last night. If you go watch the video, he was not in the wrong, and everybody's like, "Oh, Tom Hanks said he dropped an F-bomb and he pushed him out of the way, whatever." Bro,
hey, look, let me tell you something right now. He played as Mr. Rogers. He ain't Mr. Rogers.
He's not actually.
Let me just say that, okay? Like, shut the fuck up, guys.
Well,
if someone up and tripped your wife and like she almost fell and like almost hurt herself, I would lose my shit, okay? Like.
Well,
yeah.
My thing though is like, good Lord, how close do they need to be?
Well, you gotta understand how paparazzi is, honestly, man. Like they really just want a picture and they want the first they want to be the first one to hear some sort of story. No matter what it is, they want to be the first. No matter what the story is, they want to be the first. Have you ever seen Nightcrawler with like Jake Gyllenhaal? What story
was there? He was just like walking out of a building and getting into his car.
I know. Have you seen Nightcrawler?
Yes.
It's pretty much the same premise.
It's been a while,
except
but I've seen it.
It's pretty much the same premise, except Nightcrawler is just more fucked up. They just want a story, no matter what it is. It has to be eye-catching. It has to be emotionally driven, or it has to emotionally pull you. Like, it has to catch an eye. Yeah. They just want to find that. They're just trying to look for that shot or that news or that breaking news. Like, they want that, no matter where it comes from. Bro, if they could get it from Gandhi himself, they would try. Like, that's how much these these reporters want a new news story. Because the second it starts getting dry, no one's going to want to watch and whatnot. And that's how they get paid.
But my thing is, though, like, if there's, I don't know, I went back and watched it like 3 times to see who was really in the wrong, because the camera does kind of move around a lot. But like, Tom Hanks is walking here. His wife is over kind of on the other side. They weren't directly next to each other. But even the guy, Tom Hanks, the camera is like, I mean, the cameras are, I'm like, what are you going to look at? This? Is this going to be your, like, your depth of, like, you know what I mean? What are you trying to see? His cornea? They get so close to him. And there were like 3 people around his wife. The one guy who's wearing a black hat, he bumped into her. And then he bumped into her, and when Tom Hanks yelled, he turned around and looked at the other guys like, what's wrong? And he threw his hands up like, what's wrong with you, whatever. And I was like, bro, you bumped into her. Like, if you wouldn't have been hot on her tail, then that wouldn't have happened. But
I know. And
yeah, I don't blame Tom Hanks at all for going off in that moment. At all. I mean, I think I'd have done the same thing.
Yeah, I don't blame Tom Hanks for getting all riled up for it. And also, what gets me is that fucking, like, no offense to Tom Hanks' wife, Rita Wilson. She ain't any movies. She's not in any movies that I've seen recently, so she's not like in the public eye all that much.
But she is married to Tom Hanks.
Yeah, so I mean, you're obviously going to be put into that. And also, the only Tom Hanks movie I know that's out right now is Elvis, I would say. Yeah. Where he did that huge body changing thing, which is granted cool, but I don't see Elvis becoming like a top-notch movie. No offense, guys. I'm sure it's great, but it's not going to be like breaking records. So,
I think it'll do well.
I haven't heard anything about it.
I think it'll do well. Honestly, yeah. It looks pretty good. But yeah, I don't blame him at all. Even like thinking about, like, it makes me. It was kind of the same situation as the Tobey Maguire one, where he says, "There's cars here, bitch," or whatever he says, like when he leans out the door. Because do you know which one I'm talking about with Tobey?
when someone's in his way and he's like, tell him to get out of the way.
Yeah, but like, cause he's trying to turn right, and there are so many paparazzi blocking his view. He can't turn out into traffic out of the parking garage. But like, I don't know. So many people like I understand that it's your job to get pictures and it's your job to follow them and to do all of that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, bro, they're like real people with real lives. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you just they're there waiting for you to take a picture. Like they have
Yeah,
lives,
yeah.
they got
Well,
places
it's
to be,
like
they got to go do stuff too.
you gotta understand like how much these fucking actors and actresses are like put on a pedestal because everyone wants like the inside scoop of like whatever. I saw a story about I saw like an interview with like Zac Efron and like how he had like a he met up with Leonardo DiCaprio, who was like, probably I would say one of the first like child stars of our generation of this modern day era of movies. And because he's been through the ringers too, but and he
Leo,
like yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio,
yeah,
like when he was like a kid star and he was like moving up into the movie business, he was like
yeah,
he went through paparazzis too. And I guess Zac Efron and them like shared notes and stuff. And Leo pretty much told Zach was like, look, man, you're kind of getting a little bit different because of the access and the what's it called? The access and the ways they can follow these actors now. And
right,
Zach told a story about he said how like he took his dad out around like California and whatnot, and and his dad didn't believe in all the paparazzi stuff, and his dad was driving around Hollywood, and he started noticing like the same cars driving by or like following behind them because paparazzis knew that Zac Efron was in that van, and Zac Efron started labeling like listing off all the different cars that usually follow him, and his dad slowly started realizing that this shit is real. So
yeah.
like it's pretty bad in
Yeah.
regards to paparazzi, and it's fucked up, but at the same time you kind of do sign yourself up with that. Like you kind of sign up for it, honestly.
You do to an extent. I think there's a very big extent, like to an extent there. So I don't know. But Jansen, not Grubs, what's going on, man? Nice to have you in here. Couple more news stories before we get into our Jurassic World Dominion review. Uh, this one coming from Geekosity, kind of interesting if you are a Marvel fan like we are. Given what we know about the whole multiverse storyline and things like that, this is coming from Geekosity this morning, actually. Venom 3 will be Tom Hardy's last. This was written by Mikey Sutton, who is the editor of Geekosity. Reads, Venom 3 will mark Tom Hardy's final appearance as the character. Its predecessor, that's not what I wanted to do. I clicked back and I didn't mean to. Its predecessor, 2021's Venom Let There Be Carnage, chomped. Wow, I am just being attacked by ads right now.
Hey, let's go. Pop up ads.
Oh, they always get you. Chomped over 506 million globally. Granted, that's less than the 851.1 million worldwide of the first Venom. However, Venom never faced the pandemic. The Spider-Man No Way Home connection also boosted the sequel. Nevertheless, Sony isn't complaining. Instead, they'll take a half billion any day of the week. Excuse me. Still, it looks like Hardy abandons the symbiote after Venom 3. Tom Hardy posted the front page of Venom 3 script on his Instagram story. Innocent enough, right? But Tom Hardy added a GIF that states "Last Dance." So there's the picture of the script for Venom 3. This is different than director Zack Snyder's cryptic teases. Those tell fans not to give up on restoring the Snyderverse. This, though, reveals Tom Hardy's done. I usually don't take the pessimist viewpoint. Nevertheless, this seems self-explanatory. That's honestly there's honestly no other way to interpret this. After all, it makes too much sense. Venom 3 ends a trilogy. Does Hardy have anything to say about the anti-hero? Probably not. Critics and fans felt similarly to both Venom movies. At their best, audiences looked to them as engaging escapist fare, and I would agree with that. I think I mean, Venom was fun, but it wasn't like it didn't blow me away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like Wow, that was incredible. That was an incredible Venom story. Jansen, see ya, buddy. He says, "Gotta head out. Glad I got to stop by. We're glad you got to stop by, man. Thanks for coming." Um, but would you agree Venom wasn't anything unbelievably spectacular? You know,
It was a fun movie. That's
it
all.
was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun, and I
I
enjoyed
kind
it.
of
And that,
figured.
that's
I
not
kind
to
of
take
figured.
anything away from it. But,
Yeah, I kind of figured with the whole like, how can I say? The whole premise of like stories about the supervillains is, I think it started coming out whenever like people started sympathizing with like Loki, or so to speak.
yeah,
And while it can come out, while those can be like hits, majority of the time they are going to be misses, because when you talk about these like villains, yeah, it's cool, but you kind of just want to see like the fucking superhero kick their asses, pretty much.
yeah.
Like that's pretty much
Well,
what you want to see.
what's the one thing everybody has talked about since the day that Venom came out was when's he going to fight Spider-Man? When's he going to fight
Yeah,
Spider-Man? When's he going to fight
yeah,
Spider-Man? You know what I mean?
yeah.
And we've never gotten that. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of disappointed in Let There Be Carnage. I mean, I didn't really think Carnage was that great, to put it bluntly, you know.
Yeah, I
So
would
I don't know.
agree. It's definitely something that I've noticed over the time, is like throughout the first Venom and then Venom Let There Be Carnage, everyone really wanted Spider-Man and Venom to have another duke it out moment. But
Yeah. Yep.
unfortunately, throughout time, like with all the news and the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going, it's like it's starting to become less and less likely that we may get that. So the what's it called? The interest in the movie in general is really
Yeah.
not
Well,
particular.
I think
Even with the Andrew Garfield thing,
yeah.
possible Andrew Garfield spinoff
Mhm.
that Sony wants to do, like that's becoming more or less likely. Like I haven't heard any news whatsoever about that, other than the fact that like we'd like it to happen,
Yeah.
but again, we're not going to see that for another 4 or
Well,
5 years, I
it
would say.
it's starting to be less and less yeah, I guess interesting is the word, although that sounds harsher than I mean it. You know, we're like, because we want to see them interact with other characters in the MCU. Morbius, it just seems almost pointless, if that isn't too harsh sounding. It's like if they're not going to interact with, I don't know. Part of the thing though is like if Venom 3 is going to be the last, why exactly did we have the post-credit scenes? Like, why did we get him in the MCU for 2 post-credit scene, and then as soon as he's back out, then we're gonna do a final movie? I mean, do you want to see him as a part of the Amazing Spider-Man 3, or do you want to see Andrew Garfield fight Venom in Venom 3? I mean, like, what's your take on the Andrew Garfield thing? Like, how do you think they should do this or navigate this with exiting Tom Hardy's Venom?
Fuck. What I would say is, because what I was thinking right now was, I thought they were just gonna make their own like storyline in regards to, like the symbiote war or something like that. Because that's
Yeah,
primarily around like Venom storyline. It's pretty much around Venom more than
right.
Spider-Man. So I thought that's what they were gonna try to do. But if this is gonna be Tom Hardy's last like fucking outing as Venom, I mean, I don't see that storyline going anywhere further after that either. And
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe Tom Hardy might just be like, I'm just fucking with you guys. I'll come back if the money's right or something like that. Like,
Right.
who knows?
Money
So
talks.
yeah, money talks. But nevertheless, yeah, Tom Hardy's probably just done with it, because he probably doesn't see much of a vision on it anymore.
I agree.
So
I would agree with
yeah,
that. Yeah. Nobody claimed they transcended the superhero genre like Joker or Zack Snyder's Justice League, nor did they reach the emotional heights of Spider-Man No Way Home. You got that right. Perhaps Tom Hardy seeks new challenges that the Venom franchise can't fulfill, and I understand that. He's got to grow. He's got to do his own thing as an actor, too. In a post-credit sequence to Spider-Man No Way Home, Tom Hardy leaves a symbiote behind in the MCU. Hardy's departure gives Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige the opportunity for his own Venom, in other words, a Venom in the MCU. This opens the door for the symbiote to attach itself to Tom Holland. Marvel Studios planned this for Secret Wars. Hardcore Marvel Comics followers longed for a faithful adaptation of Venom for decades. Hardy may be gone soon, but the real Venom could come next. Regardless, Sony won't stop making Venom movies. They deliver the big bucks. No, they can't resist those cash registers. With or without Tom Hardy, Sony will continue doing them. Given that Morbius sucked at the box office, Sony can't live without Venom. That's going to be the question is, kind of the big question here is the relationship between Marvel and Sony. If we get a Venom in the MCU, are we going to get Venom interact with Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU? But also, is Sony going to do... I don't know. That seems like a lot to me. I think, for Venom to make appearances in the MCU, but also have his own, not necessarily in another universe. Maybe Sony's solo Venom movies they're set in the MCU, but they're just solely about Venom. My only fear with that is that it could get really confusing because it's like, well, we have Tom Hardy's Venom trilogy, but this is a different Venom set in the MCU. It seems like a lot to me. So hopefully, I don't know, hopefully that all kind of works out the way it's supposed to in terms of, the legality of it and who's going to own the character, how they're going to write the character, where it's going to appear at. So that'll be interesting too. But
see, that's where these like crowdfunded movies seem to be so more like intriguing to me, because like when it comes to like production studios, like bro, like there's so much legality in trying to like do any sort of crossover events or something like that, because of like copyrights and legal, like, and like making sure everyone has their piece of the pie. It's like, bro, like we really don't fucking care what you guys get. We just want to know what we can see in the movies and what we want to see in the movies. So like, so like, just say for instance, like this has been like some huge, like fucking like awesome crowdfunding universe. We could just literally like hundreds of millions of people could literally just throw in like $10 and boom, like you have like enough money or capital to like make like a Spider-Man and Venom crossover, as many as you like, I guess, if you're into that type of shit. So, but I mean, like, I don't know, that whole like fucking wall that everyone is trying to break in regards to like legality and like copyright and ownership is so much of a fucking headache, and it's just now became like a topic to consider. You know what I mean? Like no one really particularly cared much about the legality and ownerships of these things. It's like, oh, so we get one. Okay, cool. And that's it. Now it's like,
you get a Venom movie and you get a Venom
this. Like, now it's like, oh, could we get this? Oh, well, we can't because of this whole legality stuff, blah, 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 blah.
And it's like, especially with Spider-Man and Venom. Which I do, and it's gotten better. I mean, listen, we couldn't have been having this conversation 6 years ago. You know what I mean? Or maybe not 6 years ago, but 10 years ago, we couldn't have been having this conversation because Sony had all of Spider-Man, Disney had the rest of it. But now we kind of can talk about this sandbox a little bit more. And, it's like, well, I think they have more of a working relationship now. I think they see, I think No Way Home is kind of the catalyst for like anything is possible now. I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think there's necessarily a I don't know. I don't think there's a limit to what they can do anymore. And I think for a long time, the legality of who owned the characters and who could do and call and say and write for those characters, I think that was kind of a big brick wall. But that brick wall has been knocked down now. So, I mean, it's cool that we can have the conversation of having a Venom in the MCU even after Tom Hardy's Venom and the multiverse thing, and bringing in Toby and Andrew and who's going to appear where, how they're going to appear, when they're going to appear, things like that. So interesting enough. But our biggest news story of the morning comes from Deadline. And this is one that's been breaking, trending right now. And that is to do with Ezra Miller and David Zaslav and what Warner Brothers is going to do with this whole situation. Because look, it's like all the time something new comes up with Ezra Miller. This kind of seems like a complete disaster in my eyes. And this goes back to an episode that we did. What episode was that? Was it 70? Let me go back and look. Come on, YouTube. Let me go back and look because I think It was one of our more recent ones. It was episode. Let's see. It was episode number 68. So 10 episodes ago. Wow. Actually 11 episodes ago. That doesn't seem possible. Our 68th episode, we talked kind of the catastrophe going on with the DCEU right now. Is it too far gone to save? Given everything about the Ezra Miller stuff, given this Amber Heard thing, I just, you can hear all of our thoughts there. I think we're past the point of saving it. I honestly, I'll go see The Flash. I'll go see Black Adam. I'll go see Shazam, Fury of the Gods. But I don't. Black Adam does. I gotta hand it to him. Black Adam does look good. I thought the Black Adam trailer looks pretty dope. But it's just like it's set against the backdrop of losing Zack Snyder and losing Zack Snyder's Justice League, and the whole thing that went on with what's his face, who wrote Toy Story. I don't even remember his name. Dickhead on.
Josh Whedon.
Right. Joss Whedon.
I love how I noted. I remember just by the word "dickhead."
Plus losing Henry Cavill as Superman. It's just the DCEU, even moving forward, even if they use the Flash to springboard into something new, it's just painted against the backdrop of everything that's gone wrong with it, And this Ezra Miller thing, if you've been watching the news lately, Ezra Miller is not doing anything to help that. It just seems
it's like with every single incident, he's like, "Oh, you want me to up the ante this time?"
There's always something worse with him, with them. And I hate to say that, but it's true. This is coming to us from Deadline. Broke this. What is today? The 18th. So broke last night actually at 7:12 on the 17th. Zaslav's first movie crisis. What do we do with Ezra Miller, the erratic star of Warner Brothers' $200 million Flash franchise launch? Now, let's think about that for a minute too. Warner Brothers has sunk it. There's a growing group of people that's saying just get rid of the Flash, erase Ezra Miller from the Flash. But you got to think where Warner Brothers is coming from too. They just sunk $200 million into this movie. You've brought back Michael Keaton as Batman. You've brought back Ben Affleck as Batman. This is supposed to be like a universe shattering movie. You can't just write that off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just can't. It's like the one anchor you have. If they're really trying to hold on to the current DCEU, this is the one anchor that they're using to hold on to it. But the problem is everything that's going on in the news with Ezra Miller right now. I mean, they're just making this so much harder than it already needed to be and than it already was anyways. So this article from Deadline went on to read, even though it isn't on the Warner Brothers release calendar until June 23rd, 2023, The Flash is becoming Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav's first movie crisis because of the escalating coverage. There you go, Miguel. It has been escalating of incidents of volatile and odd behavior involving the film star Ezra Miller. Zaslav has made clear his desire to grow the DC universe to MCU scale and has all the ingredients of a first foot forward in The Flash, including the return of Michael Keaton as Batman, along with a reprise by Ben Affleck, a $200 million budget, and a hot director in Andy Muschietti, who delivered the blockbuster It for the studio. The Warner Brothers Discovery CEO exercised his well-known penchant for micromanagement by declining to greenlight Wonder Twins for being too niche. Zaslav will have to soon make a decision of what to do with the completed picture that is The Flash and what to do with a young actor who appears to have serious offset issues. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. I completely agree that it's too much to write off. But I also think the issue comes in, again, wanting to grow the DCEU to MCU scale. Why do they feel the need to do exactly what the MCU is doing?
Because that's what's hot.
Yes, that's what's hot. But I feel like if they did what they do really well, if they told the the dark, intimate stories like the Batman, like Joker, if they would try to do some of those things and just try to focus on what they do really well, they would be more of a competitor with Marvel than if they just try to than if they try to copy their same formula.
I mean,
It
yeah.
I feel like if you just try to copy Marvel's formula, you're never going to be Marvel because they're always going to be 6 steps ahead of you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That
Yep.
doesn't make sense to me. What about you?
I think with in regards to that, it's like it sucks the fact that everyone's trying to do one thing. Like no one's trying to find like their niche. And I gotta say, yeah, DC is pretty good at making like their own, like separate from a universe, like singular storylines. It's just way more interesting. Like they hold so much more weight in those types of movies, like Joker, the Batman, and the Dark Knight Rises, and what else am I thinking of? You know where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's where their niche is. They're great at creating these singular storylines that only have like their own trilogy. Like they're doing really good at that. If you look at all the other Marvel trilogies, they kind of get lackluster. Like, you know what I mean? They do get a little
Yeah.
bit
Look
lackluster
at the
throughout
X-Men
the second or
franchise.
third. Yeah. Every single DC trilogy I've seen so far has been pretty spot on. They've been pretty good. So I just don't get why that's like not their like they don't try to like what's it called? Throw more of their cards in the table in regards to those types of movies. But
Yeah.
they just want to copy everything. Everyone wants to copy something and everyone wants to be like everyone else. And I don't know. It just we got to get to a point where like, look, guys, we need to find that like studios need to find their niche and stick with it because that's always who was making the movies. Yeah, you could branch out and do other things that you might think may be interesting and maybe like, you know, breaking barriers. But you're not
Breaking
breaking any
Bad.
barriers with Marvel because it's already done. It's already
Yeah.
done. Like good luck trying to emulate that. You
That's
can
what
get
I'm saying.
close, but you have a higher percentage of fucking it up than actually doing it the same way, if not
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So
I agree. And this article goes on to say Deadline has heard the studio has tried getting help from Miller, but the troubling headlines continue to pile up, and that they do. Could you send a potential liability on a global publicity tour and have the actor anchor a huge studio franchise play? Zaslav has several choices, and he will make one of them soon. Among them, he can pull back on heavily promoting the summer 2023 film, confining it to some P&A and no publicity tour, or he can regulate it to streaming with HBO Max and take a write down, or lean in towards making the movie a hit and then drop Miller if they can't straighten things out. Warner Brothers did that when it dropped Johnny Depp from the Grindelwald character and the Fantastic Beasts franchise after the actor's well-publicized unsuccessful UK lawsuit. The studio replaced Depp with Mads Mikkelsen. So we have 3 options here. Let me take this away for just a minute. And Miguel, I kind of want your opinion on what you think is the correct option where they go. We have 3 options. They can pull back on the promotion. As it said, they can just do no publicity tour. Basically, just it's going to be what it's going to be without a ton of advertisement, without a big marketing campaign. Or they can just throw it on streaming and just take the loss. They could just straight to HBO Max, take the write off, or they can just go full steam ahead, and we can say, you know what? Let's go for it, even despite all the crap with Ezra Miller. Let's just absolutely go for it. Push this thing, make people. Let's just move forward like it's going to be the best thing they've ever seen. What do you think the correct answer is here? What direction do you think they should go?
I'm not too sure, honestly. I really don't.
That's fair.
Yeah,
It's tough. It's tough. I honestly I don't think they're gonna just throw it to HBO Max and take the write off because that's gonna be too. They're gonna lose millions and millions of dollars if they do that. This isn't necessarily what I think. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I don't know. I'm not the head of Warner Brothers. I don't know exactly what the correct answer is here, but I kind of think they're going to do the same thing they did with Johnny Depp in the Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts thing, when I'm kind of thinking that they're going to promote it. They're going to have a marketing campaign. They're going to go full steam ahead. And then if nothing gets better with Ezra Miller, they're just going to boot them out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just going to say, nope, we're done. That's it. That's kind of what I think is going to happen. I don't know that for sure. That's their track record. They did that with Johnny Depp. That's kind of why I'm thinking they'll take that route again. But again, David Zaslav's different. All of the new Warner Brothers are sex. They're different. You know what I mean? They're It's not the same people that did that to Johnny Depp. So I don't know exactly what that's going to be or look like. This article goes on. There is no winning for this in Warner Brothers. One studio source tells us this is an inherited problem for Zaslav. The hope is that the scandal will remain at a low level before the movie is released. Doubtful, in my opinion, and hope for the best to turn out. Sources said this is the big one here. Sources said even if no more allegations surface, the studio won't likely keep Miller in the Flash role in future DC films. That would mean replacing him in the future, but there is still a $200 million investment on the line with the first film, and Warner Brothers execs have to be cringing at each new press report. So there it is. They're not going to recast him after the Flash. It's not going to happen. But again, the big issue here is what do you do right now? I think in their heads they're like, we just got to get through the Flash. Like, we just got to get through the next year, the marketing campaign. And I think kind of based on what this source has said, and saying that there's no winning in this for Warner Brothers, this is an inherited problem. They're hoping that things will just kind of stay low key, that there'll be no more allegations. They won't do anything else. I don't know. Given his track record and given the way things have gone over the last couple of weeks, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
but
who knows? Maybe this is like, how old is Ezra Miller? Like, how old is this man?
I don't know.
Because I'm curious to see like what might or could transpire.
I don't know.
Because if I'm not mistaken,
it said it right here, 29. There have been 2 more rounds of unflattering headlines just in the last 2 weeks for the 29-year-old Miller, who identifies as non-binary. The Daily Beast reported that there was a temporary harassment prevention order this week from a 12-year-old and a mother in Greenfield, Maryland, against the actor who Miller allegedly menaced the family and acted inappropriately towards the non-binary child. So,
what?
I don't know. Last week, the parents of an 18-year-old named, I'm not even going to begin to try to say that name, filled paperwork asking a judge to issue an order of protection against the actor on behalf of their child, saying Miller groomed and brainwashed Tokata. I think that's how you say it. Ezra uses violence, intimidation, threat of violence, fear, paranoia, delusions, and drugs to hold sway over a young adolescent, whatever her name is.
Tokata, just say it, dude.
Tokata, I don't want to say it wrong, which was obtained by multiple outlets. The 18-year-old's parents alleged the two met at a Standing Rock reservation in North Dakota when their child was just 12. The parents allege Miller gave Tokata alcohol and drugs, flew the child to London and places such as Vermont, New York, California, and Hawaii. This past week, Miller deleted his Instagram account in the face of the North Dakota tribal summons, the actor allegedly mocking authorities about their whereabouts. Tokata posted a video on Instagram defending Miller. It's nobody's business and nobody is owed a story or an outcome. In the 2-minute video, this is my life and these are my decisions, and I'm disappointed in my parents and the press in every way. Prior to the recent news about Tokata's parents' allegations against Miller, the actor was arrested twice in Hawaii for a dust-up at a karaoke bar in March, followed by an arrest for second-degree assault at a residence a month later for allegedly throwing a chair at a woman at a private party Miller attended, cutting her forehead. During the first incident, the Hawaii Police Department Hilo Patrol reported that Miller became agitated when patrons began singing Shallow from A Star Is Born. Miller began yelling obscenities at one point, grabbed the microphone from a 23-year-old woman singing karaoke, disorderly conduct offense, and later lunged at a 32-year-old man playing darts harassment offense. The bar owner asked Miller to calm down several times to no avail. The actor was arrested and charged with multiple offenses with bail set at $500. Bail was provided and Miller was released. Do we want to even keep reading this? I mean, it's
No,
just
honestly, no.
it's
It's
just
it.
a
But
it's a disaster.
here's where I was getting at. Here's where I was getting at with this, man. If you look at it, who knows? He may somehow, because he's only 29 years old, he may be able to turn his life around and become like a box office hit later on in life. Because if you look at look at the legend RDJ. Okay, 34, 1996, in and out of prison. With drugs, alcohol, and weapons, like totally obsessed with all that, and pretty much destroyed his life, and he was sent to jail, in and out. Now he's like, I don't know, around 2020. What was he like when he got Iron Man? I guess, or like when he got Iron Man, it was probably like 2010 or something like that. But like, nonetheless, when Endgame,
well, no, because Iron Man came out in 08.
Well, during Endgame and Infinity War, like RDJ was already like, I don't know, 55, I'd say. Yeah. And now he's gross like over $14 billion, I'd say, in regards to like how he was. So that's like a huge life turnaround. Like he 100% complete 180, turned his life around and is doing great. Who knows? Maybe good old Ezra Miller needs to get slapped on some chains and get sent away for a little bit for him to actually realize like, hey, I'm gonna fucking destroy my life if I don't do it. Granted, RDJ is probably one of the only people that I know, actor-wise, that's gone through the shit and went to jail, came back, and actually got a hit, and actually became like a sensation again. And granted, Doolittle wasn't that great of a movie, but still, nonetheless, Sherlock Holmes is still great. But
well, I mean, I'm sure there are others that have done that. I mean, I don't know what's going on with them. It just seems...
Well, it's the curse of just being famous and just being a Hollywood celebrity. Like, you think you're over the top of the world, and I guess the struggles of like daily lives like us are like multiplied tenfold for these people, I would say, because they're always in the spotlight. They're always scrutinized. People are always looking for some little scoop or some news story or something to show like, hey, this is the guy that we all put on a pedestal. See, he's human. And that's just, it can really put a toll on a lot of these actors and actresses. That's why so many of these people lose their fucking mind. I mean, I'm sure the story of Britney Spears is up there all the time. Shia LaBeouf is up there all the time. Brendan Fraser can be one of them, but I mean, his was particularly like victimized. So, like, you have all these Hollywood actors and actresses that are just scrutinized over and over and over for so many decades. So it's like, I don't see that trend dwindling anytime soon. I see it ramping up.
Yeah, I'm happy for Brendan Fraser though, because I think he's kind of making a comeback, which is cool. The only other thing that this Deadline article had to say was that Warner Brothers has so far declined to comment on Miller or where these mounting incidents will leave the studio and the actor's future. Deadline has reached out to Miller's legal reps and will update should they have any statements about the recent restraining orders against the actor. So that's really all there is to. I mean, that's the update on it. It appears, based on the source that Deadline has, that Ezra Miller will not reprise his role of the Flash in the DCEU, whatever the DCEU is going to look like after the Flash. I don't know. I think this is kind of leaving a lot of things up in the air. I kind of wonder if this is leaving David Zaslav to kind of rethink this whole restructuring of the DCEU and what he wants to do. I think the DC universe has, I think there is potential there, but I also think that there's, you said this earlier. It's almost like for every one chance you have to make this really, really special, you have like three others that could just completely screw it up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I was already kind of not sold, even going back 10, 11 episodes ago. I was already kind of not sold on the whole DCEU thing and where we were moving towards. But after all of these headlines are coming out and after all of this uncertainty with The Flash, given that The Flash was supposed to be such a big movie for this universe, I'm even more. I'm kind of to the point I don't care anymore. I'm just like, and I know that sucks as a comic book movie fan. I hate that, but I'm just to the point. I kind of don't care about the DCEU anymore. I just don't. And I'm not saying, listen, I'll admit it. We're getting ready to talk Jurassic World Dominion. It was, I have to say, it was fun seeing a movie that I really, really enjoyed that wasn't a Marvel movie in the theater. It was, and I'll admit that. And I don't think every Marvel movie is golden. I mean, I'm actually getting ready to say something here in just a few minutes that might shock a lot of our listeners, but you know, I don't know. I'm not saying Marvel is the best thing that there ever was, but I don't think the DCEU holds a candle to it. So I'm going to leave it there. And I hope that they can figure it out. I hope Ezra Miller can figure things out. I hope Zaslav can figure things out with the future of the DC universe. But time will tell. We'll have to wait and see.
Time will tell.
So we are an hour and 6 minutes in. Holy crap, we just talked about a lot. This is episode number 79. If you're watching still with us and you have not left this episode a like, please be sure to do that. Let's talk Jurassic World, Miguel. Jurassic World Dominion. We saw this film on Wednesday night? Yeah, we saw it Wednesday evening, pretty late. So real quick, Miguel, your non-spoiler thoughts. What do you think of Jurassic World Dominion? Because I made a quick non-spoiler review, very brief in the parking lot. Miguel had to skedaddle. So give us your non-spoiler thoughts real quick before we hop in.
Okay, so with Jurassic World Dominion, I would say that before we saw this movie, that we were already getting like hit with like reviews left and right talking about it, and it was pretty split down the middle. It was either one of the definitely like a contender for a summer blockbuster or a complete flop. And I know that one was very much something that we were kind of worried about because we didn't want Jurassic World to be a flop. It's supposed to be like the end, right? It's basically supposed to be the end, from what I understand.
It's the conclusion of the franchise
pretty much. So we were a little skeptical and worried about how the movie was going to end. But, walking out of the theater, I can say that this was pretty much, how can I say, is this going to be a contender for a summer blockbuster? Yeah, but not by much. But is this pretty much a love letter for the entire franchise as a whole? 100%, absolutely. Yes. This was pretty much just sign, seal, deliver, a love letter to the whole Jurassic Park franchise. And I would say like almost everything that you would expect in like this movie happened. Everything that you wanted to happen in this movie happened. All of the legacy characters, I guess we could say that, and all the legacy characters were given their just due. Pretty much everyone was utilized properly well. The dinosaurs look spectacular. I'll say though, there are some moments in the CGI in the beginning of the movie that I was like, I don't really like where this is going in regards to CGI. Well, but other than that, like, because with CGI you got to do it. But I will say that they did use some practical effects in this movie. They did a pretty good job on it. And you could tell the difference between CGI and practical effects. And while some people don't like that, they want it to like mesh pretty well. I don't particularly mind it. I like the fact that they use CGI and practical effects on some of these movies because you kind of have to. If you want more like intimate, like scary moments in this fucking movie, practical effects might be the thing you might want to do. When you just want grand scale, like action sequence, CGI is probably gonna be it. If you want something more personal, do practical effects. That works better. But I like the whole like mesh that they had. The balance that they had between practical and CGI was done pretty well.
I had actually seen somebody talk about this. They just kind of, not to interrupt you, but it jogged my memory on this. Somebody had said, why is it that the dinosaurs in the original Jurassic Park look so much better than, and I'm so much better. I mean, I say that loosely, but the dinosaurs almost look more believable in the OG Jurassic Park than they do in this new Jurassic World trilogy. And somebody had mentioned it was something about A, they were animatronics. B, there's something about the aspect ratio and the angle. Not only the aspect ratio of the the screen and what you're seeing, but something also about the angle that they shot the dinosaurs and the distance of how far they were from the dinosaurs that seemed that was something different that they did specifically for the original Jurassic Park that made it. Because listen, if you watch Jurassic Park, it holds up. Like it looks about as good as anything from today. You know what I mean? It looks really, really good.
I would say one of the movies I would say that really does the CGI and practical effects properly was Jurassic Park 3, where it was like Ethan Hornet, like Site B. Like when it came to Spinosaurus Rex, the whole grand scale of like the park as a whole, and then when it came to Velociraptors and how they were interacting with everyone, like those, like all of those factors, it kind of like meshed together pretty well. So like, because I've watched the behind the scenes sequence, I had the DVD of Jurassic Park 3, and they talked about how they were able to do it. They did a splice of both practical effects and CGI, and it does it pretty well. Like, guys, they had like a 30-foot Spinosaurus and a like 27-foot like T-Rex fighting one another. They had the animatronics for it, and they also meshed the CGI effect of it. Yeah, and they did it phenomenally. I will say I prefer the Raptors and Jurassic Park 3 than I do with the whole Dominion
I agree
storyline 100%. And I think that's something that was definitely missed in the whole is it a trilogy? Yeah, the next trilogy of Jurassic World. So
well, and it's interesting, like this isn't a spoiler yet. I know we're not into spoilers just yet, but like it's interesting that this has been in the trailer that obviously Blue and Owen have moments together. But I think part of the Velociraptor thing is also that they're trying to give Blue more of a not humanistic, but they're trying to show her emotion a little bit more. You know what I mean? And the Raptors, like there's a moment, one of my favorite moments, you mentioned Jurassic Park 3, is at the end when they're trying to run to the beach, and the Raptors get them cornered, and it's like on each side. And there's a point where there's a raptor, and Grant's got his, like, he's facing it, but then in the foreground, you see another raptor run up, and Grant turns around, and he's got like the bag with the raptor eggs in it or whatever, and it makes the raptor like caw noise or whatever. But just the way it looks in the foreground, it really looks like they're breathing and like moving and being stealthy. You know what I mean? There's just something about it that looked it looks real. It doesn't look like CGI, because typically, you can tell when something is extremely CGI. You just can. I mean, even if I don't, it's in the way it moves, and it can look amazing. I mean, I think my brain even goes to, I mean, you all know King Kong from 2005 is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I mean, we've talked about this on the show before. At the time when Peter Jackson's King Kong came out, that was the most expensive movie ever made because of the effects and the things that went into making that movie so real. I mean, Kong was motion captured. I mean, that was all mocap. A lot of the, even thinking about, you love this scene, the bugs in the trench, when the big crickets crawling all over Jack and the worms are coming up and stuff, like so much time was taken to make sure that they looked and moved real. And, but you can still tell that they're CGI. You know what I mean? I mean, there's no way to mocap that, I don't think, but it'd be funny if this is a guy in a blue suit, like trying to be the worm and stuff. But you can just tell. But and that's not to say that any of the raptors or the dinosaurs looked bad, but there were a few moments, and I believe I even turned to you and said, "That's practical. That's an animatronic. That's not CGI." I call them the Barbasol dinosaurs. I'm terrible with the dinosaur names. There's people who are like Brontosaurus, T-Rex, Spinosaurus, just like they can go and name it like every one of them. I'm not like that. I can't do it. the Barbasol dinosaurs, the thing that's like it looks all sweet, whatever, and then it's like the thing that does the one that kills Newman. They spit the
because he had the Barsol on him.
They spit the stuff.
Yeah.
When you see those were animatronics, and you could tell by the way the heads moved, and just, I mean, it looked good, but you could tell they were animatronic. Just little things like that. So, any final thoughts before we talk spoilers?
Yeah. So, if I want to talk about the storyline, pretty much again, like it really much connects everything that happened, that transpired in the last 5 movies, I guess. Yeah, in the last 5 installments of the Jurassic franchise. It pretty much connected everything back to the way it was, to what has transpired and what has led up to all of this.
Yeah.
Primarily when it comes down to how the dinosaurs came about and what that particular character that I'm thinking of and how she came about and how all this is connected through her. Mm-hmm. And it really delves into the idea of genetic, what's it called? Like the genetic science, like science and genetics pretty much, and how that can affect the world if that area was tapped or like broke through, because honestly we don't really have that yet. I would say, at least I don't know, but yeah, what would happen if we somehow broke that barrier and is able to have like genetic alterations and genetic science playing in to all of the species around us, like. Yeah. Well, that was only like a side, like that was like a overlaying like story arc throughout the movie. But when it came down to like, Owen and everyone else, like I like the fact that like throughout the movie it was 3 different storylines in this movie. I like the multitude of storylines coming together all to like a single cross up. And even though the cross up was like momentarily, you felt like it was leading up to that very moment, and I liked that a lot.
It wasn't very like Resident Evil 6.
Yeah, it was very Resident Evil 6, I would say. Like it was like so many storylines and they came together and like, oh, okay, part of ways. So yeah.
I guess we're gonna move into spoilers because I have a hot take on this, and I actually have the we can do this in just a little bit after we give our thoughts. But I have the Rotten Tomatoes scores and a couple of the reviews pulled up. I don't understand the hate, the critical hate. I think overall, right now, it's sitting at a 78% audience score, which is pretty decent at 10,000 plus ratings. But it's at a 30% rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. And again, we don't put too much stock into Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm not understanding the hate it's getting. And I said this in the video I made after I walked out of the theater. This might be a really hot take, and I think a lot of our listeners might be like, what? I think it might have been my favorite movie of the year so far. And I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more than Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which I know is kind of crazy. But I felt like it was a lot of fan service. This felt like there was a lot of fan service, but out of the Jurassic World trilogy, this one felt the most like the original Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
And this one felt like a very natural sequel to the original Jurassic Park film. And I think,
and I have a theory why.
Part of largely it was because of Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern returning, but there were callbacks to the original 3 movies. You know what I mean? Honestly, I kind of felt like in Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, it was almost like the first 3 movies didn't even really need to, or especially The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 were just irrelevant in those. And I felt like, why? Like those were really cool stories and there were things that happened there and things that mattered, Even in Jurassic World, I like the first Jurassic World film, but I kind of largely felt like there was no real tie-in. There was no real reference to it. I mean, we did get the couple scenes where they stole the Jurassic Park Jeep, and we saw the original Jurassic Park sign, but they actually talked about the events of the original trilogy in this movie. It felt like there were callbacks, but it was also a natural progression of the story. Spoiler alert, because we are going into spoilers now, but the whole thing with Maisie, I didn't really buy into it in Fallen Kingdom. I'm not going to lie. But I actually really enjoyed her character, and I enjoyed, I think I enjoyed her character more because they tied it into her mom working at Jurassic Park. She was at the original Jurassic Park when all of this stuff was going down. You know what I mean? They kind it's not, it may not be Top Gun Maverick, it may not be Avengers Endgame, it's not the Shawshank Redemption, that's not what I'm saying, but I give this one a pretty high score because as a conclusive film to a franchise, I feel like it does kind of wrap things up with a nice bow, and it took risks and it did new things, and it was serviceable to the new characters, to Owen, to what's her name, Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Claire. There were new characters introduced, but it also did justice to what came before it too. And I think that's largely something that this new Jurassic World trilogy, I feel like, has kind of been void of, was doing justice to that original trilogy, because that original Jurassic Park trilogy is amazing. So I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun movie, and I kind of reading through some of the reviews and what people thought about it, I was like, I don't agree with that at all. I thought it was fun. I genuinely had a really good time watching it.
Yeah, and my thing is, I would say like what one of my favorite things that I liked about Jurassic World Dominion was pretty much the idea of it gave us new dinosaurs, but it didn't give us new dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because in Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, like it was like perpetuating the storyline of like like dinosaur warfare, like genetically mutating these dinosaurs to becoming like fucking weapons. And then like, because you know, you had the Indominus Rex, and then you had the Indominus Raptor, I guess. And while those were like pretty cool and unique, I mean, you kind of steered away from the idea of Jurassic Park, of like actual, of like real possibilities of having dinosaurs here. You're just like, okay, let's just make a fucking monster and just splice all these DNA, and there you go, we have an Indominus Rex. But one thing I liked about Dominion was the fact that they used a species of raptors in that particular scene when they were in Malta, where they used a specific species of raptors, and they pretty much bred them to basically be a cruise missile, like a heat-seeking missile that will tear you to shreds. Pretty much using what they would consider like fucking like anti-aircraft weapons that would take down a fucking She went. All you needed was a fucking laser to like just tell the fucking raptors like, hey, that's a target. Don't stop until you fucking shred it in half.
Sick 'em,
like,
boy.
Yeah, pretty much. It was pretty much, she pretty much had like some Dobermans. Like, yeah, so Harley Quinn and your fucking hyenas, eat your heart out. Like, this bitch got fucking raptors. Thoroughbred raptors. She said they were thoroughbreds. Thoroughbreds, yeah, because I was like, yo, dog, this is fucking dope, because they pretty much like, that's how I imagine, like, you know, if they were like, you know, back when they like Jurassic World was coming out, they were thinking like, oh, T-Rexes with like fucking cannons on their shoulders. Like, no, I wasn't expecting stuff like that. But I was expecting like dinosaurs to be used for like some sort of like warfare, or some sort of like, you know, just to see like, hey, what would happen if we did like breed these dinosaurs to actually be used for like certain like, you know, warfare type things. And that was just like, it was like giving us a little sliver of like, hey, this is something that could happen if we had raptors and we were able to breed them to become like, quote unquote, a cruise missile for people or for the enemies. And I thought that was well done. And I thought I preferred that better than, say, the Indominus Rex or the Indominus Raptor. Like, I prefer those thoroughbreds
I think I agree
more
with
than
that.
what I
Yeah.
did in Jurassic World or Fallen Kingdom. Now,
Well,
when it
with the
came with
Indominus, it's almost like you can't focus on the other dinosaurs because you're so focused on the Indominus. You know?
yeah, pretty much. Like, I could care less about all the dinosaurs that like fucking escaped. Like, I was like, okay, sure, they escaped, but you got the Indominus Raptors coming out here trying to rip everyone. And while the Beta and the Indominus Raptor was pretty cool scene, I just wanted to see more of like the fucking Indominus Raptor because it was just a fucking mutated fucking raptor. So like, it kind of pulled me away from like the love that I had for like just dinosaurs in general, because dinosaurs in general are just, they're cool enough as it is. It's like where it comes back to the idea of like space and like how people try to make like scary movies that are in space. It's like, no, like space itself is scary as fuck as it is.
Yeah.
Like the idea of being in space is scary enough. Why do we need to add the storyline of like parasites or aliens in the mix? Like space is scary enough. Dinosaurs are just cool enough as it is. Like they're like the different species and the different traits that these dinosaurs have, and what we're learning more about these dinosaurs is cool enough as it is. Like just put that in the movie and it's good.
Yeah.
And I think Dominion did a perfect job on it when it brought those thoroughbred raptors, when they brought that, I don't know what it is, fucking Freddy dinosaur, the blind.
That's an actual dinosaur
yeah.
though. That's not a human
That's
creation.
a real dinosaur.
I forget what it's called, but that was cool.
And that's a real dinosaur. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. One of the things that I liked most about it actually was a lot of it at the beginning. You know, it.
What, the now this Facebook post?
Well, yeah, actually, seeing the dinosaurs interact with the natural world, because we have a very established order here. We have a very natural food chain. It was cool seeing, you know, if you watch the prologue to Jurassic World Dominion, seeing the T-Rex at the campsite, and you're watching it, you know, go in front of the drive-in screen, it's knocking over RVs. You're seeing people hit dinosaurs with their cars. You're seeing dinosaurs hunting things in the woods. Blue was hunting rabbits. You're seeing planes flying, and there are pterodactyls right next to the plane. I mean, it's fun to think about. You know, just suddenly dinosaurs are back. And what would that do to our ecosystem? You know, at one point, Claire says this is like an ecological disaster, because it's like you're basically taking the food chain, you're taking humans' dominance over the planet, like you're taking everything we know about like our society, and you're basically crumpling it up and throwing it out the window, because there's a new order here. You know what I mean? You know, and there was even a moment, again, with the callbacks to Jurassic. This movie made Jurassic Park feel like it mattered. The original 3 movies mattered in this story. And I don't feel like the original Jurassic World or Fallen Kingdom made it feel like the original Jurassic. It just made them feel like old news to me. And this film made it feel like, wow, the events of like Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm and
pretty much what Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm like prophesized.
People know them. People know them. They're like, you're the everywhere they went, they were like, you're Alan Grant, you're Ellie Sattler, you're Ian Malcolm. They were like, you survived Jurassic Park. Like, you were the original 3 that were like, this is a bad idea, we can't do this. Like, you made it out of Jurassic Park, and they've worked their whole careers to try to say this was a bad idea. Like, at one point, Ian even actually, like, Malcolm even says, he's like, it's not like we spent the last 3 decades trying to prove this, you know what I mean, or like trying to warn you against this or something like that. But it was really, really cool seeing dinosaurs interact with people, seeing kids feeding the little ones from the little jumping things from Jurassic Park 3. It was cool seeing what that would do to society. And it you know, I love the scene when the construction workers, when the little girl, Maisie, is that her name? When she goes into town, and the construction workers, there's the
just say Brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus. When the Brontosauruses are like walking through the construction site, and they light the flare, and they're like trying to be nice, and they're trying to lead them away, I was like, that's heartwarming. You know what I mean? Because there's so many other instances, like we saw with, you know, there's so many other, like what we saw with the illegal breeding grounds, because people are sleazeballs and people suck. and people would be hunting them. People would be trying to have them as pets. People would be illegally breeding them and trying to sell them on the black market. People would be trying to find military applications. Like, there's just people suck. And that's the other kind of interesting thing to see, was this whole idea that, you know, there are good people that are trying to help them and that do believe that we need to find a way to coexist with them, but there's also people that are going to hunt them and people that are going to be complete D-bags all the way around. So that was kind of one of my favorite parts, was just seeing the interaction. There was even a poll. If you remember, there was a poll on TV at the beginning on the Now This thing, and it was like, you know, they were asking people, what do you think we should do with the dinosaurs? Kill them all, send them back to a refuge, like, or try to capture them, rebuild Jurassic Park. Like, there were just those little things that it was like, okay, people know what happened at Jurassic Park. It's not like, well, that's brushed under the rug. Like, no more of that. Like, the events that happened at the original Jurassic Park mattered in this movie, and I really, really, really appreciated that. It was something definitely made my score go up a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
and pretty much in regards to like the rest of the movie, at the end when it came down to like the idea of like the locusts stuff, because that's something we didn't mention, was like the whole Bison like conspiracy.
yeah.
Where like I didn't fully understand what was going on, like why Bison was trying to spread these locusts around. I think it had like an underlining mission, like in the beginning of the movie, where it's like this certain farmer's entire field was just destroyed by a locust, and the only plantations that were not being affected were by seeds that were planted by Bison, which is like a real like little fucking like slap in the face to like Monsanto, if you guys don't know about that. Because like the whole idea of like this major corporation is it wants to be like the main dominance of like the actual food, or like how we generate food in the population. So this is like Bison's way of like saying like we could, you know, control what people grow, what we can grow, and what other people should grow. Like it was their way of like controlling like certain parts of the world. But they obviously lost track of it because these fucking locusts are like from fucking Revelation chapter 12. Like they're ginormous fucking species that are just tearing up the plantation. So like it's like, what do we do here? So honestly, when it came down to the whole locust situation, like that was something Bison created, and I thought it was real cool how that was the main focus of what was wrong with Bison. It wasn't the fact that dinosaurs were roaming around the earth. It was the fact that they were trying to do some shitty like plantation control thing, and they just got way out of hand. Like that was the focus of a good majority of the movie, was like, how do we stop these locusts that Bison somehow made a mistake? Because you see how like in all the previous ones, it was all about the dinosaurs and how like we don't know how to hold these dinosaurs together. No, like the dinosaurs are already out, so now there's a new problem, which are the fucking locusts. Which if I were to choose, I'd take the dinosaurs over the locusts.
Oh yeah, they were gross.
Any day of the week.
They were gross.
Yeah.
They were freaking. Like
I'm not trying to get the mark of the beast. Yeah, that's some shit I really don't want in my life. So
it's, you know, but I've seen a lot of people complaining about the story, and they're like, "Oh, the story sucked. It was boring. It did," but it felt natural. It felt like a natural response. Like
it felt like something that could have happened.
Well, it felt like if there was like a genetic, but you have the issue of what's going on with the dinosaurs and that whole ecological disaster issue of, wow, dinosaurs are back and this is going to rewrite our food chain. But you also have the whole idea that, you know, again, people are sleazeballs and people suck, and they're going to do genetic testing and they're going to do all these bad things. Like you said, you know, I mean, at one point they even said, you know, millions of people are going to die if we try to control the food chain, and especially with the dinosaurs being back. And it's basically like, well, all in the name of science. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like I thought it was a natural. They kept pushing story.
That narrative.
I thought it was. I thought the story made sense for the story that they were trying to tell and for what was happening. But that was just me. I mean, I think a lot of people disagree with that. But what did you think of? Sorry,
I was
go
gonna say,
ahead.
I think it was the fact that they kind of did throw the dinosaurs in the back burner. It was just like, oh well, the dinosaurs are around, so let's just do stuff and not worry. But hey, there's this Monsanto conspiracy that we got to focus on, like the locusts.
I don't
And some
necessarily think
people,
they threw them on the back burner though.
well, they weren't necessarily like, they were just there to be like, oh shit, there's still dinosaurs around.
Yeah,
Like they weren't necessarily like the main focus. They were just like, let's try to stay away from these guys. And if they do show up, we know what to do to stay away from them, pretty much.
fair.
The main focus was these prehistoric fucking locusts that were eating our goddamn crops and chewing the fuck out of us. Because you see what happened to Alan Grant and what's her name? Like they got fucking tore to shreds whenever that thing blew up.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I would say the animal that really did steal the show for me was one. In second place in regards to stole the show was the fucking Freddy dinosaur.
Freddy Krueger.
But the one was definitely the locusts because they were by far one of the scariest things I've seen in the movie. Because the scariest yet beautiful animals in there. Because you see how they came out of like the fields, like they're almost like kind of like how birds kind of like flop around like through. You know how like a flock of birds just fly out. It was almost beautiful how they were able to like sway around.
I mean that's true. I did like the scene whence. I liked the scene when Henry Wu goes and he like when he releases the genetically altered one to kill the rest of the bad locusts, and when they all swarm, like that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was neat. I thought that was pretty cool to see.
And the two scariest and the scary parts of those locusts was obviously whenever they're going to swarm somewhere. Like that's fucking scary as hell. Whenever the two kids were trapped in the farm and they were about to get like bombarded by these fucking locusts.
Right.
And then the other one was definitely one of the ones that I thought that was very like freaky and like daunting was when fucking Apple Products dude, I forgot what his scientist name was. When he decided to just burn up that facility, and you
Are you
saw
talking
how all
about
the locusts.
Dogston? Is that Dodgeson or was that his name? Something like that?
Sure, I guess.
Yeah.
But whenever he decided to just burn the evidence,
Yeah.
and like try to burn them up, bro, they were literally like cockroaches. Like you really couldn't do anything. Like you were literally like flamethrowing them, and all of a sudden you had this entire spiral of just fucking like locusts on fire. Locusts that big is scary enough, but imagine them on fire, frightening as hell. And then when it broke out, and then the way it like came out into like the new I guess quote unquote Jurassic Park, like it was just flying over everything, all burning up. It was like basically like a fireball, pretty much. Like it looked like something that you would see on Revelations or read about. Like it looked fucking biblical to me. Yeah. And the way it destroyed the entire fucking forest was just as frightening as you could expect it. It was more frightening than having the Gigasaurus like just stare you down, because the Gigasaurus was kind of like, it was kind of there. I'll be honest, it wasn't necessarily all that scary. It was cool to mention the Gigasaurus, Giganta, whatever the fuck it is. It was cool to mention it and to see it interact with like Rexy and all them. Yeah. But like the locusts, in my eyes, were the species of animals that literally stole the show. Like in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the return of the legacy characters and how they handled that? I thought that the return of Grant and Sattler and Malcolm, and even the return of Henry Wu, which, I was like, oh crap, because I liked Wu in the original Jurassic Park when he was the doctor. He seemed normal, but
I liked Wu in this entire franchise, dude.
Yeah, but he kind of became the bad guy for a little bit, though.
No,
but I thought, what do you mean? No,
he
was trying to make dirty deals with Vincent D'Onofrio in Jurassic World.
No, he wasn't. He was just a scientist. He was just a scientist trying to create these trying to create these dinosaurs.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think he kind of did a little bit of a 180, which was cool. I felt like in this movie he recognized that, okay, all of this genetic crap is not really okay, and what they're doing here is not okay. Even when he came back and he like showed himself at the end, and he was like, I need her to set this locust thing right. And when Jeff Goldblum was like, we know him, what is he doing here, and whatever else, like I thought his whole story arc was kind of cool, because he went from being the good guy in Jurassic Park to kind of doing a whole 180 to being like, he's a little sketchy, I don't know about Wu. And then by the time the end of this movie happened, I was like, okay, he kind of saw the error of his ways. He saw that he needs to try to do something good, and I liked his character arc. I'll tell you what I really appreciated, and this could have been really, really easy to screw up. And another reason that I praised this movie a lot was their treatment of Dr. Grant and Ellie Sattler, Andy and Malcolm. I felt like it could have been really easy to just have them come in and they're just kind of there, but they don't really matter, to pull kind of like what a Halloween Kills did, where it was like, I don't feel attached to these characters at all. I felt like it was just, we just jumped right back into the same characters. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like, it's kind of awkward. They're kind of in the plot, but they're not really in the plot. They had just as much plot as
they were the plot.
They had just as much plot as Chris Pratt, and as the whole thing with Maisie and Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard.
Because Owen, those two, they were just there to find their daughter. They had zero idea about the whole locust conspiracy that was going on. Alan Grant and Claire, they were the ones that knew about this giant conspiracy that could have destroyed the ecosystem. They got the storyline that mattered to the world as a whole. Yes, I would say. Yeah. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, they got the whole Mandalorian thing, where they're trying to save Grogu. That was pretty much what it was.
And it made sense because Maisie was Maisie, right? Am I correct in saying that? Let me look at that.
Yeah, I think it is Maisie.
Yes, Maisie Lockwood. It made sense that she was the heart of the movie at the end of the day. Her finding out about her mother and kind of her history of when she asexually reproduced her at Jurassic Park.
She literally just cloned herself and just put her in her belly and shot it out.
I don't think she really cloned herself. I think she just asexually reproduced because of how.
Yeah, and since it's just her and nobody else, it was just going to be like a carbon copy of herself.
Right, but she did end up. But she did end up fixing whatever disease she had or disorder she had. She made Maisie into like a perfect being, so to speak.
If you think about it, yeah.
But I don't know. She was definitely the heart of the movie. I thought that was very well done. Even the secondary characters, even Kayla, DeWanda Weiss, who played Kayla, the pilot, she was a new character. We had Ramsey, the guy that was with Ian Malcolm, who was his who helped him.
I was so glad to see him again. Yeah,
inside. It was just kind of cool, seeing that little bit of, even the new characters I liked. I was kind of even in the trailer, I was a little worried given the reviews before I watched it, and looking at the trailer, I was like, they're still going to push all these new characters, and the original trio is just kind of be there to be there. No, I like I said, their treatment of all the characters was really, really well done, incredibly well done. And I really praise that because, again, I think that was something that could have honestly been very easy to screw up. And maybe that's part of the reason. Let's go over to some of the, if it's okay with you, let's check out some of the Rotten Tomato reviews and the scores, if that's cool with you. I think part of the reason that people had an issue or took issue with Dominion was that they felt like the plot was just kind of meh with the locusts and stuff like that. But I think it was very character focused. You know what I mean? Very, very character focused. Even the stuff in, even the whole, I don't even know if you'd call it the B plot because it mattered just as much as anything else. But when they were in Milan and they were trying to, or Malta, when Chris Pratt and them were trying to get there, the whole thing with you said about the laser raptors and, you know, I tell you what, I loved the shot. All of the shots of the raptor chases were cool through Malta, but when Chris Pratt turns the corner and he like skids into the opening, like in like
The center?
the
Yeah.
town square or whatever, and there's the two T-Rexes standing there. People are just running and it's chaos. Plus there's raptors running around. I was like, this is awesome. Like this is really
This
cool to see this happening. Like
this
not
movie
only
right
dinosaurs
here,
interacting with citizens, but you're
yeah.
having this dope chase scene in the middle of it was really cool. It was well shot, man.
This movie in particular gave the title justice, pretty much.
Yes.
Because with Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, you really only had like 2 locations. In Jurassic World Dominion, you had like
it felt like the world.
Yeah, the entire world was being affected. Like you had Chris Pratt and you had what's his name? Sam Neill and Chris Pratt's character were going all over the country pretty much. I know, probably like, it was linear. They were going, in different places, but you had like the United States, you had Malta, you had Italy, you had all these other places that they were going to try to find these, to try to like, reach their goal, or so to speak. And it just showed like what these dinosaurs would be, how these dinosaurs would interact with people in different parts of the world. I kind of felt like it was like World War Z with zombies, where like they were going to different locations.
Ooh, that's a good comparison.
Trying to find the conclusion of the story as a whole. But they were in different locations all over the world. And I thought that was really cool because it really expanded the fucking franchise as a whole. Yeah. Not for future spinoffs, but just like it expanded the franchise to new locations pretty much. It wasn't based on one island or one port city. It was literally on like different parts of this world, and I thought that was really interesting for sure.
Another good way to put it, and this kind of just popped into my head, Jurassic World, the original trilogy felt not as much like a trilogy, but like 3 really good stories about this core group of characters. Jurassic World truly felt like a soft reboot. There were nods, there were little things that tied in the original trilogy, but not a whole lot. It felt like a soft reboot. Fallen Kingdom, which it was a soft reboot, and that's fine. Fallen Kingdom didn't feel like it upped the ante enough from Jurassic World. I feel like it just kind of felt like we're just kind of lukewarm. We're just kind of at the same level. Honestly, the most memorable part of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom for me was when the dinosaurs get released at the end, because then it's like, oh shit, like, whoa, like this is really this changes things. Like this is a big deal. Dinosaurs are just loose in the world now. That's a big deal. Jurassic World Dominion was the first one of this trilogy where I honestly felt like, okay, that's a sequel. This feels like a true sequel to everything that came before it. And again, and that's not to knock Jurassic World or Fallen Kingdom, but it truly felt like a good wrap up to the rest of the franchise. And I'm not really, I don't get the hate that it's getting. So like we said, on Rotten Tomatoes, this is just to kind of just to stimulate.
You realize right now, Jurassic World, out of this trilogy, Jurassic World, the first installment is currently the highest rating movie of this trilogy. Yeah.
I know. And
I thought it was cool because it was so refreshing, I guess. It was such a refreshing course. It was basically like Jurassic Park Next Generation, I would say.
Right.
And it was really cool. And it like laid the foundation of what could happen if we could militarize these dinosaurs, and what would happen if they upgraded the technology for keeping track of these animals. Because,
right,
back in Jurassic Park, it was very, very minimal
well,
technology. Because for instance, you saw that like they mentioned it in Jurassic World Dominion, where it's like, well, we don't use electric fences. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're pretty much saying like, hey, we can hold these dinosaurs much better.
Yep.
But what's funny is that even with the technology in there, dinosaurs, like nature is not controllable. It's uncontrollable. Like you can't control it whatsoever.
Well, there was even a moment, I forget who said it, or what exactly,
finds its way,
or whatever the context was, but somebody actually said something about like, is this humane? And somebody said, do you know how many volts the fences at Jurassic Park actually were? And
it was like, Ramsey.
They were
Ramsey
like,
that told
Alan. They were like, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I forgot who it was. The kid in Jurassic Park got electrocuted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They
I
were
thought that
well. If
was.
you look at it though, it said something like 10,000 volts or whatever on the fences. Like they were like it probably would have killed one of those dinosaurs if they really would have tried to charge through that fence. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but then again, you'd have a dinosaur on the loose. So I mean, it's kind of fair
I
game.
know, right? That makes sense. Um, but by the way, the black phone is at 100%.
Damn,
I just
Ethan
want to leave
Hawke,
that.
good job,
I
man.
just want to leave that out there. I'm super stoked to see that. So, at a 30% tomato meter, 78% uh, audience score. The critics' consensus is Jurassic World Dominion might be a bit of an improvement over its immediate predecessors in some respects, but this franchise has lumbered a long way down from its classic start. Uh, some of the critics' reviews. Someone said a long, tired, winding road. Another one
Fuck
writing.
you, whoever's from Cincinnati,
Uh,
Ohio. You ain't part of the boys.
Another one says Jurassic World Dominion is dumb without the fun, and that just makes me sad. I don't agree with that at all. I don't think it. I don't think it was dumb at all. I think it was a natural. That's what I'm not understanding about the story. Like, what? Why is it that and I'm guilty of this too. I was guilty of this, especially with Halloween Kills. But why is it that people expect a Shawshank Redemption out of like every single movie they see?
Bro, I want you to know that Shawshank Redemption didn't do good when it
I
was
know,
released.
but I mean, by today's standards, the Shawshank Redemption is considered. I mean, Shawshank, The Godfather, The Green Mile, Forrest Gump. I mean, those are considered to be like monumental, Titanic,
Because they
Jaws.
picked
I
up
mean, like
a following. Like, I'm sure like right out the gate, these movies didn't really particularly do well.
that's fair.
You gotta understand, like some of these are they're just massively cult following, pretty much. Like so I can see this movie slowly raising the getting better more and more because these top critics, I mean, they just want to say something bad.
Yeah, that's fair.
They just
That's
want to say something bad. It's like you have this whole thing where it's like someone's talking about a movie and you have that one guy. It's like, nope, I didn't like it. It sucked. It was like, well, did you watch it? And he was like, no, I just know it sucked. It's like they just want to be different.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like all these people right here from some of these reviews is like want to be a franchise Mission Impossible instead, the anti Top Gun Maverick. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
That's kind of harsh. I mean, I understand what they're going for, but that's harsh. Like, I don't know. It's saying that it wants to be like the badass, cool one of this franchise, but instead it's just kind of it just didn't say it was just lukewarm. I mean, like this one saying overly long and soullessly engineered, the latest sequel in the dinosaur franchise fails to heed all of the lessons of its predecessors. I don't agree with that. I don't think it was overly long at all. I actually felt like the pacing was really good. I was never bored with it, even at the moments where it was just characters talking and there was no dinosaur action. I felt like, hey, we're catching up on these characters that I've largely missed for the last two movies. You know, I mean, I know Jeff Goldblum had a cameo at the end of Fallen Kingdom, but I'm like, to me as an audience member, I was sitting there thinking, hey, I'm cool with catching up on these characters a little bit because again, we haven't seen them for two movies. It's been a long time, and there's been a lot that's happened since the original Jurassic Park trilogy. So it's like, well, I'm okay with some dialogue here and there. I don't think it was overly long. I don't think it was soulless at all. I felt like it was pretty character driven. I mean, the whole thing with Maisie, the whole thing with our legacy trio, the mother father thing that Owen and Claire were kind of going through. I mean, I thought all of that was really well written. You know, I don't know. I thought it was good. This person says sloppy screen. One of the few people that actually gave it, a tomato. Sloppy screenplay reduces dinosaurs to co-stars in their own movie, delivers decent fan service and great FX, if not a fully satisfying film.
Fair. Because that's what I said.
Why do they want the dinosaurs to be the main event, though? Like, I swear that's the thing is you'll never make anybody happy because if the dinosaurs would have been at the center of the stage, they would have been like, we didn't see the original trio enough. There was no story. It just didn't matter. It was just dinosaur action. Um,
Yeah,
Kind of
because
the
you see
same thing that they said about Godzilla versus Kong.
yeah. Because what's funny, if you look at that one, and then you look at I don't think you have that one. It's I'm reading one too, and it says Jurassic Dominion closed the Jurassic World saga worse than expected, wasting legacy characters and trying to squeeze two movies into one, but having none of them focusing on the core elements that made the saga great. Yeah.
That's fair. Couple more here. Jurassic World Dominion is not a good movie, but in the midst of so much mediocrity, there's some fascinating, albeit breathtakingly silly world building that demands to be unpacked. I didn't think the world building was bad. That goes back to the whole now this thing at the beginning, and seeing how all of this like unfolds, and seeing dinosaurs back into the mix of society. The whole back to the ecological disaster thing. I didn't think that was bad. I thought it was actually pretty well done. Then just one last one, real quick. The movie's greatest miscalculation, and I haven't even gotten to its misuse of its mostly wonderful cast, is to regard the behemoths as ordinary wildlife, leaving the film completely lacking in moments. So I don't know. I disagree with a lot. I disagree with a lot of the reviews. I mean, I don't. That's part of the plot, though, to kind of think about the dinosaurs as animals, and they're not necessarily these larger. I mean, if you think about the natural progression of the story, you know, we've had Jurassic Park, which never got open to the public, but it was out. I mean, it's been out since the 90s that dinosaurs were back, and that they were even if they were contained on Isla Nublar and Isla Sorna, dinosaurs were back. The whole thing with Jurassic World was open to the public, and people did get to go and take pictures. It's not like it's new news that dinosaurs are back. Now, it's new news that there's a complete ecological disaster and that dinosaurs are back in society. That's big news. But there's not really anything breaking, or I mean, there's no reason for people to be like, oh, with every dinosaur they see, because it's like, yes, it's amazing. Yes, it's wild, but it's not brand new anymore. The shock factor is gone. It's just the holy crap, I'm looking at a dinosaur, you know?
Yeah. It's like I'm looking at a dinosaur on I-75. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy, but it's also the initial shock of, wow, dinosaurs are back. They've been extinct for millions of years. Like that level of shock and awe is gone. So it makes sense that they're just looking at them as normal dinosaurs. I will say the ending was very abrupt. I felt like I kind of wanted I would have liked a little bit more of a reel with the OG Jurassic Park music, like the Jurassic Park theme. Seeing dinosaurs interact. I mean, it was cool seeing them interact. The whatever running with the horses and the thing swimming with whales, and I mean, all of that was cool to see. But I would have liked a little bit more of a love letter to the ending. The ending just kind of felt like, and we're done. So that's kind of my biggest criticism of it. But Miguel, what's your rating? Your official rating of Jurassic World Dominion?
I would say it's probably like a 7.3 for me.
Okay, 7.3 for Miguel. I don't know. For me, again, might shock people.
I'm thinking like around 9 for him.
I'm gonna give it an 8.6.
Oh, okay.
So 7.3 for Miguel, 8.6 for me. I thought it was a fun way to end it. I mean, again, is it Titanic? No, but it didn't need to be Titanic. I don't think it needed to be. I didn't think it needed to be anything more than it was. I thought the characters were all really well written. I thought the story was well done. It was really cool seeing the dinosaurs interact with the natural world. And I thought it was a natural, pretty true story, because let's be real, if that were to happen in real life, humans would be complete and utter sleazeballs about it, and they would be trying to hunt them, and they'd be doing terrible things with genetic testing and whatever. So again, real quick, 7.3 for Miguel, 8.6 for me. That is our review of Jurassic World Dominion. And that is going to do it for us in episode number 79 of Let's Talk Movies, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We are 2 hours in. I was going to say almost 2 hours. We are 2 hours in. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We will be back on Tuesday night with episode number 14 of Purely and Simply Evil. We're going to talk, I almost said American Wolf in London. We're going to talk American Psycho. And whatever that was on Miguel's phone. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
We're going to talk American Psycho. Our full commentary for that film is out now. That's going to be a fun time diving into Patrick Bateman's psyche as well as his incredible music choices. So please join us for that. You can set a reminder for that. It is scheduled on our channel right now. New episodes of our shows premiere every single Tuesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern. We are on Twitter and Instagram at We Talk the Movies. You guys are awesome. Tell you that all the time, but you are. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we will talk to y'all soon. See you. Peace. Bye. Love you. Peace. Bye.
Deuces.
And life will find a way.